because I really cannot hear you all. Or maybe it's at your end. Yeah. I'll just increase the volume a little. Yeah. Thank you. So you were there. Lamart, Calcutta, Dhruv and Pradyuman, are you there, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you. PPS Nabha, Kudrat, and Harshvardhan.
Yes, ma'am, we are here. We both are.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. RIMC, Cadet Sudhakar and Cadet Ayush. Oh, so I think he's trying to get in touch with RIMC. So we just wait for them. Assam Valley, Trinena and Aditi.
Yes, ma'am, we're there.
Thank you so much. Convent of Jesus and Mary, Harshita Soni and Simran Kaur.
Yes, miss, we are there.
Thank you so much. Lamat Lucknow, that's Kinjalak Sharma and Aditya. Are you there, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Unison, Sanvi Gupta and Khushi.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So Khushi, I got a message on my mobile phone saying that you'd be, so you're all there, right? I mean, no problem now. Okay. The Lawrence School, Kehkashan Sehgal and Manya Bansal.
Ma'am, Manya Bansal is present here. I believe there was a change made, and the second participant is Yashika Yadav, not
Yes,
Kehkashan.
yes, because Yuvraj had made that change. I'm making it in on my notepad, right? Now, thank you very much for the reminder. Missouri International, Ridhima Agarwal and Viva. Are you there, children? Missouri International, that's a lot of silence. Are you there? Well, I'll check again in a bit. Maybe I'll call them just now. Okay, there's Ridhima Agarwal and Viva. Okay, Viva. Okay. So, Vantage Hall, Ananya Singh and Janvi Jain. If you could just let me know.
Yes, ma'am, both of us are here.
Thank you very much. Okay, somebody's asking to be let in. Okay. So, St. George's College, Akhilesh, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Parantab Gupta is having trouble logging in right now.
Right. So what I will do is I will just go and tell Yuvraj and perhaps he'll be able to sort out the issue. Just give me 2 minutes, all right?
Yes,
So I'm going to switch off the camera as well as the microphone. You just have to wait for 5 more minutes. I'm going to go and check, right? And I'll be
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to declare the topic for the first Lumiere Inter-School English debate. However, before doing so, I'd like to request Tanuvi to take you through the rules and regulations and the judging criteria once again. Tanuvi?
Now I will be announcing all the rules and regulations. The topic will be declared to the participants right after the announcement of rules and regulations. Participants will have an hour of preparation time to get their arguments together. Two speakers, one for the topic and one against the topic, will be taking part from each team. Each speaker will have a total time of 4 minutes to present their arguments. A warning bell will be rung at the end of the 3rd minute to inform speakers to wind up their arguments. A final bell will be rung at the end of the 4th minute to signal the end of speaking time. The bell will sound something like this. Any arguments presented after the 4th minute will not be considered by the judges. After the conclusion of a speaker's speech, the floor will be open to other participants who can ask the speaker questions. 1 minute will be given to the speaker of other schools, both for and against the motion, to ask a total of 2 questions to the speaker for rebuttal. Participants are requested to use the raise your hand option if they are ready with a question for the speaker. The questions should be clear and to the point and should be based on the content of the speaker's speech. Cross-questioning and unparliamentary behavior will result in penalization. If no questions are asked during the rebuttal, full marks will be awarded for that question to the speaker. Participants are requested to switch on their cameras and unmute their mics only while presenting their debates or while asking their question to the speaker.
Thank you, Tanuvi. With that, if there are no questions from the participants or the teachers of the participating schools, I think we can move ahead with the declaration of topic. Are there any other questions?
Sir, excuse me, I had one question.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you're saying that the floor is open to participants both for and against the motion to ask the rebuttal question.
Yes, sir. Anybody from any other school can ask the question.
So my query is that the people who are from the same bench as the speaker, so do they have to ask the question like from the perspective of the other bench, or they can ask the question like they have to ask the question from the perspective of like say proposition, if they are from the proposition and the speaker is also from the proposition?
The questions would generally be preferred from the perspective of the other bench. However, if you prefer to ask a question, it should be specific to the content already presented by the speaker. Any question that falls under this category will be perfectly accepted in the house. Any other questions?
Right, thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I think we can move ahead with the declaration of the topic. Tanuvi? The modern day influencer is only a publicity-hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. I'll repeat the topic for the house. The modern day influencer is only a publicity-hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. Your preparation time starts at 8:25, and we will expect you, all of you, back in the meeting at 9:25. You may proceed with your preparation.
I hope you all got that, right? I'll just be posting it on the group as well, because again, you see there are some people, they haven't been able to come into the meeting. So I'm just going to put it in the WhatsApp group for them. If the teachers are here, they can just tell them that it'll be in the group. So this is the topic. The modern day influencer is only a publicity hungry narcissist with a personal agenda, right? I hope you've got the topic, everybody. Best of luck. I'm very sorry he had to leave in a rush because there are 3 people who are just trying to get into the meeting. So I'll very quickly post this topic in the group. Are there any questions, please? Thank you. So we meet again when, I suppose, at the time that Yuvraj shared with you. Thank you so much, everybody. Another request, could you please very quickly on the WhatsApp group, okay, give details of the participants speaking in favor of the motion and speaking against the motion so that we can get the score sheets ready. If you could do that very quickly, thank you.
Wynberg-Allen dot.
आ गया आ गया हैं?
I can listen it.
या हो गया
You can switch off the mic.
It's all there for and against.
Good morning, participants. We are ready to start. However, before starting, we'll be doing a quick roll call of all the speakers once again to ensure that everybody is here. So we'll be going in the order of speakers. St. Joseph's, Karthik Unyal. Are you there? Karthike? Okay, moving on to the second speaker from St. Joseph's, Saksham Goyal. Saksham, is St. Joseph's there? We'll just contact them if they're not. Lamart, Kolkata, are both of your participants there?
Yes, okay, sure.
Thank you. Punjab Public School, Nabha, are both of your participants there?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. RIMC, are both of your participants there? RIMC? We'll wait for RIMC. Assam Valley, are both of your participants there?
Yes, we're there.
Thank you. CJM Waverly, are both of your participants there?
Yes, we are there.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Lamart, Lucknow.
Present. Both the
Thank
participants.
you. Unison World School. Unison. Are your participants there? We'll wait for Unison. The Lawrence School, Sanawar, are both of your participants there? Lawrence School?
Yes, we're here.
Thank you. Missouri International School, are both of your participants there?
Yes, we're present. Yes, we're present.
Vantage Hall?
Yes, so both of us are here.
Thank you, ma'am. St. George's College, are both of your participants present?
Excuse me?
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me? Beta, I'm from St. Joseph's Academy and my children are having trouble logging in. They say that invitees or something are not allowed. Can you please help them?
We'll put you in contact with Mr. Sering immediately, ma'am. St. George's College?
Yes,
St. George's College?
Both the participants are here.
Thank you, sir. We'll be waiting for Unison, RIMC, and I'll get into contact with them immediately.
Excuse me?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. RMC, both of us have attended. We have joined.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Damat, Calcutta?
Yes, sir. Both of us are here.
Okay. Unison, are you there? Unison? We'll wait for 5 minutes for Unison and then we'll start with the opening ceremony. Thank you for your patience.
The lady from St. Joseph's Academy, could you please give me your phone number so that I can give it to our IT department? Hello? Ma'am, are you there?
Yuvraj, can I speak to you?
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Could you call me on my phone, ma'am?
Mr. Sareen's number and they are trying to contact you. Can you please help them because we don't have any numbers?
Sure, ma'am. We'll get in contact immediately.
Please, they are waiting. They are the first school We are the first school to speak and they are not able to log in.
Don't worry, ma'am. Mr. Sering is on it just now. All right. I think he has got in touch with them. So we'll wait for them. Don't worry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be starting in 5 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Parantap, do you have a question?
Thank you for addressing. My question is there a procedure? What is the exact procedure for asking a question? Are we supposed to raise our hands or is there
Thank you for
some
that
other
question.
provision?
For all speakers, this is for all speakers. As soon as the debate concludes, I will announce that the House is now open for questions. After I announce that, the participants who wish to ask their questions can raise their hands. I will be selecting one speaker from the raised hands and they'll be able to ask their questions. A maximum of 2 questions per speaker is allowed. Does that answer your question, Parantap?
For sure, sir.
Are there any other questions that we can address before moving on with the opening ceremony?
Yeah, I had a question. So we're going to be starting by 9:45, right?
Yes, we'll be starting by 9:45 and we are just waiting for St. Joseph's Academy and then we'll begin with the opening ceremony. St. Joseph's Saksham Goyal will be joining shortly and Unison is here so we can proceed with the opening ceremony. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Wynberg-Allen School, I would like to welcome you all to the first Lumiere Inter-School English Debate. For good ideas and true innovation, we need human interaction and debate. And I am so glad that we have been able to come together for this engaging and meaningful session of debating. We have emerged from trying times, and although the element of uncertainty continues, we have been able to challenge ourselves to dwell into our resources, to cultivate an atmosphere of understanding, acceptance, tolerance, and compassion. Lumiere, or light, as the word simply means, is one such online platform that attempts to unite debaters to learn and grow. I truly hope that all of us today will take something away from this event, perhaps memories, experience, or just knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, gratitude unlocks the fullness of life. This morning, I am very grateful to our panel of judges. I am glad I got to interact with them and learn from them. During the duration of the Lumiere Inter-School English debate, I was truly privileged to be helped by these wonderful people. They not only agreed to judge the competition, but also provide valuable inputs throughout, patiently listening to us and answering all our many questions. I am honored to have been given the opportunity of introducing them to you. Tanavi, can we move to the next slide, please? Ma'am Brar. Mrs. Jyotsna Brar is our first judge. She is proud to refer to herself essentially as a teacher. She's won laurels in academics, in school and in universities, completing her post-graduation in English with linguistics at the top of her class. She taught both geography and English language and literature at the high school level for well over 30 years, till the day she retired in 2016. Mrs. Jyotsna Brar was the founder principal of a girls' residential school in Jodhpur, now a member school of the Indian Public Schools Conference. She later took over as principal of Welham Girls' School, Dehradun in 2000 and served in that capacity for 16 years till she retired. During her tenure, the school retained the first place among girls' boarding schools in the Education World Rankings. Ma'am Brar has been serving on the governing bodies of some of the country's most respected boarding schools and has been a member of the CBSE and the examination committee of the Council for the ISCE. She is also on the governing councils of two establishments for persons with and of a residential school for girls from economically weaker families of Uttarakhand. For the past few years, she has been conducting seminars and faculty development programs covering various educational aspects and topics. She is the recipient of the Pride of Uttarakhand Award, the Indian Public Schools Conference Lifetime Achievement Award, and the NDTV EduComp Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us here today. Mrs. Melanie Lobo is an alumnus of the school. She studied here from 1991 and did her ISc in 1996. Her connection with the school is further strengthened as her father, Mr. T.W. Phillips, who is the principal here from 1990 to 2006, and again for some time in 2007. While in school, she participated in several co-curricular activities, such as debating, short story writing, elocution, dramatics, and was also a member of the school choir. She was appointed prefect in her final year and was awarded the Spirit of Wynberg-Allen in 1995. She then went on to graduate in English Honours from St. Stephen's College, Delhi, and later worked as a visa officer in the Australian High Commission. She is a published author with stories in the Chicken Soup for the Indian Soul series and also a freelance content writer. Under her byline, she has written several articles on various topics such as women entrepreneurs, careers, child sexual abuse, fitness, parenting, etc. for Women's Web, an online magazine amongst other online publications. She now lives with her husband and son in Pune, where she works as the exam coordinator for the Pune Central of Trinity College, London. It is a pleasure to have you with us today, ma'am. Mr. Vikrant Sharma is an educationalist with over 20 years of experience across the nation and beyond. The CEO of the organization Encouragement and Serve, or EduServe, and on the board of directors of Littlewood Public School, Afzalgarh. He lives by the motto of education is an endeavor to encourage. During his long and illustrious teaching career, Mr. Sharma has worked in numerous educational institutions as head of the Department of English as well as principal. A resource expert as well as the affiliation expert for the Central Board of Secondary Education, he is also an educational expert for the Council for the Indian School Certificate Examination and the Cambridge Assessment International Education Program. He is the recipient of the Nation Builder Award awarded by the Rotary Club of Mumbai West Coast, the Shikshak Samman presented by the Global Association of Intellectual and Ignited Minds, the Sanjeevani Seed Award of Knowledge 2020, and the Vishwa Shiksha Ved Samman 2020 awarded by Fun to Learn. An alumnus of Wynberg-Allen School, he completed his ISc in 1999. It is a pleasure to have you with us today, sir. Mr. Ritesh Anand is a senior business journalist with about 15 years of mainstream media experience. After completing his graduation in English literature from Delhi University, he went on to Indian Institute of Mass Communication for a postgraduate in print journalism. He started his professional career at the Statesman, Kolkata, and later moved on to the Business Standard, one of India's leading print journalism, where he served as the front page editor for several years before making a shift to digital media. At present, he is a senior associate editor working in the digital team of the Business Standard. Also a published author, Mr. Ritesh Anand has written a series of school books on English grammar and life skills for publications like S. Chand and Goyal Brothers. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Our last judge for the day, Mrs. Manisha Arya, is a senior English teacher at Wynberg-Allen School. Her experience and expertise in debating, elocution, and drama have guided students at Wynberg-Allen for the many years she has been here. Her wit and humor, as well as thoughtful inputs, energizing positivity, and amazing lessons in the classroom are some special qualities of hers that I would like to share with you today. Because she requested us not to read a formal write-up. But believe me, learning from her has been a truly extraordinary experience. Thank you so much, Mrs. Broad, Mrs. Lobo, Mr. Sharma, and Mr. Anand, and Ma'am Arya for supporting Wynberg-Allen in its endeavor to host an online debate. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Since all rules and regulations have been shared with the judges and the participants well beforehand, we can proceed with the debate. The topic, as all of you already know, is the following. It's displayed on the screen. The modern day influencer is only a publicity-hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. I'll repeat the topic for the house. The modern day influencer is only a publicity-hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. We can proceed with the speakers for the debate today. I would like to hand over the proceedings to Nick. Nick, could you please call our first speaker?
I'd like to call upon our first speaker, Karthikeya, who will be presenting his views for the motion.
Can I start?
Please go ahead.
A very good morning to the House at large. Today I, Karthikeya Unyal, will like to present my views on the topic. The modern day influencers is only a publicity hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. And I vehemently support this motion. Now, being the first speaker of the House, I find it my duty to explain what this topic means. The word influencer stands for a person or thing that influences others. And when we talk about modern day influencers, our focus is primarily on people on social media. Influencers on social media. Publicity hungry means a person who craves for public attention, one who craves for clout. And narcissists are people who loves himself or herself more than anything else. And lastly, personal agenda is a personal goal or a hidden motive that is often hidden behind the scarf that people on social media wears. Now, moving on to my first constructive argument. The modern day influencers, ladies and gentlemen, these are influencers. They want more and more public to follow them. And for that clout, they will go any mile just to get more and more people to follow them. These people indulge in all sorts of activities on social media because they want to impress others. These influencers indulge in all sorts of things so that the public can follow them. They just for taking an example, taking the example of Indian singer Badshah, who paid, according to the Mumbai police, who paid 72 lakhs just to get 7.2 crore fake views. Ladies and gentlemen, mind it, fake views just to set a new record on YouTube. Moving ahead to my second constructive, these people, the modern day influencers, are narcissists, as they will find a way to make everything about themselves. They look for things and relate them to themselves. People on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, in every situation wants to show themselves off. Even a simple post of acknowledging something is revolving around themselves only. Like, for example, when thousands of people posted about hashtag pray for Afghanistan on social media, we clearly saw that how these influencers used even this opportunity to post a pic of themselves in deep thought, or a mirror selfie, maybe showing off their new iPhone latest. So I would like to ask them that how does this help the people in Afghanistan? How would this any way help make the situation better in Afghanistan? Now moving on, these people display only an idealistic lifestyle. The problem over here that we define today is that these people live an idealistic lifestyle to attract more and more people. They try to create an image of how on social media that their life is so perfect, come follow us. These people are always present on beach. They are rock climbing, scuba diving, but do we really think that is this possible anyhow? A person who does not work who does not work for even 1 month a week or 1 month in a year is present always scuba diving, skydiving, and whatnot. This fake image does not affect only their mental health but also creates misery all around. And why I mention mental health, because these people, they themselves do not live this life, so as to maintain this standard they always have to look for some or the other alternative. At last, I would just like, with this I conclude my debate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The house is now open for questions. Dhruv, please ask your question.
Sir, your side proposition went on and on about a certain sect of influencers who only bandwagon on certain ideologies, who don't really subscribe to a certain school of thought, but still continue to influence. Sir, do your side proposition completely neglect a large majority of influencers who speak about sensitive issues, sensitive stigmatized issues, and try to positively influence their followers' way of living, such as rape, such as suicide tendency groups, and all of that?
With due permission of the chair, I would like to answer Sir Interjector's question. Sir Interjector, when the topic mentioned about modern day influencers who are just publicity hungry, we were talking about the sect of the society which has outnumbered these intellectuals who actually wants to promote welfare in the society. These narcissist modern day influencers just focus on how they could show themselves off. Like I stated the example of hashtag pray for Afghanistan. They were not at all focused or were concerned with the people or their life in Afghanistan right now. All they were focused was about how to show themselves, their intellectual minds, of how they were sitting in deep thought, or even how they wanted to post a new mirror selfie of themselves with maybe their new iPhone or something. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tanovi, do we have time for another question?
Yes, we do.
Kinjala, please proceed with your question.
Thank you for recognition. Thank you, sir, for your speech. Now, you very blatantly mentioned in your speech that modern day influencers post pictures about themselves going out, and that is somehow affecting other people who are watching those stories. Now, if someone is being affected by someone seeing someone else enjoy, doesn't that make them a narcissist rather than the person who is posting those stories?
With the permission of the chair, I would like to answer Sir Interjector's question. Sir Interjector, how does being jealous from an influencer makes themselves narcissist over here? I was talking about that how influencers show off their fake lives. They are always out there scuba diving and doing whatnot when they have work to do, and this creates a fake image that they have such a successful life, and this affects their mental health, as they have to maintain that standard, whereas the mental health of their followers, because they think low on themselves, that they are not able to do anything when they're working 12 months a year, and they are not able to enjoy that kind of a life. I hope I have satisfied your question.
Thank you, sir. It's a request to all participants. The speaker answering the question and the interjector asking the question should keep their cameras open throughout the rebuttal. Nick, we can proceed with the next speaker.
I'd like to call upon Saksham, who will be speaking against the motion.
Right, thank you. Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Right, I'll just speak. 1 second. A very good morning to the House present at large. Today, the topic under fire is that the modern day influencer is only a publicity-hungry narcissist with a personal agenda, and I, Saksham Goyal, am here refuting the motion. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you right off the bat that side proposition has made 4 gross generalizations with this motion today, and I would like to counter each of them with my definitions. The first being influencer, ladies and gentlemen, because who is an influencer? An influencer is a person or a thing that influences another. Does this mention the word social media anywhere? So considering only social media influencers would be contradicting their own stance would be generalizing this motion. Ladies and gentlemen, we must understand that even filmmakers, even musicians, even artists influence other people. So they are also modern day influencers. But can you call them a publicity hungry narcissist with a personal agenda? I think not. Secondly, ladies and gentlemen, the terms narcissist and personal agendas, what do they mean? A narcissist is a person who loves himself or herself more than anything. And the word personal agenda in this topic implies that, well, the person would throw someone else under the bus for their own cause. But you must understand that these two terms are personality traits, whereas being an influencer is a profession. You cannot link a personality trait with a profession because that would be the same as saying that all lawyers are dishonest, ladies and gentlemen. This is the second generalization. The third generalization that they have provided here is that all narcissists are publicity hungry, but you must understand that publicity is of two types: good publicity and bad publicity. And social media influencers and all influencers in general crave good publicity, because how else would they establish their brand or venture? Therefore, we can not consider publicity hungry here, because that would also include bad publicity. And again, that is a generalization. The fourth generalization, ladies and gentlemen, is that these people are only a publicity. An influencer is only a publicity hungry narcissist. Ladies and gentlemen, there is much more to a human being than this. And looking at the way side proposition is proposing this motion, it tells me that they're coming from a place of hatred. They're coming from a place of spitefulness. Because a human being, well, if they are publicity hungry, if they're narcissists, do you think they're not more than that? Their personality does not contain anything else. And one more thing, which brings me to my first construct, ladies and gentlemen, is that the existence of publicity hungry narcissists on social media does not nullify the existence of people who are working towards social causes. For example, pages such as Humans Against Patriarchy, pages such as Official Humans of Bombay, which are promoting a more socially inclusive environment on social media and talking about sensitive issues. You cannot call them publicity hungry narcissists with a personal agenda, because they are also included in the definition of modern day influences. Thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, we must understand that on social media, there are many people who are just trying to promote their talent. There are musicians, there are filmmakers, there are models out there who are trying to promote themselves on a platform that is unrestricted and without any nepotism. That is a point about social media, which is absolutely necessary in this world. And we must also understand that each social media platform follows a certain algorithm. For example, Instagram promotes the reach of pictures which have a person inside them, which have a picture which has a photo of a person. That reach is increased. So, ladies and gentlemen, influencers have to work around these algorithms, and that is how they can establish their venture. Because would you blame a business for marketing itself? Would you blame a business for trying to increase its own reach? That is the same as an influencer trying to market itself or another product. So you cannot blame them for being publicity hungry narcissist with personal agendas, because that would be a hypocrisy on the part of side proposition today. So when I see motions like these, ladies and gentlemen, the only thing I can feel is that the mouth should have three gatekeepers. Is it true? Is it kind? And is it necessary? And when a person comes from a place of hatred, they fail at all three of these. I hope that satisfies my duty today. Thank you.
Thank you, Saksham. The house is now open for questions. Pradyuman, please proceed with your question.
Thank you for your speech, sir. So in your speech, you have blatantly broadened the label of influencers to filmmakers, musicians. So first, considering that influencing is a distinct profession, also considering that when we are talking in a debate about modern day influencers, we're talking about a majority. And this majority is defined by how much reach a certain sect of influencing society has. How can you simply broaden the debate to other professions and ignore the very wave in Instagram about how there is influencing without any system of thought or philosophy?
Right. Thank you so much, sir. First of all, there is nothing wrong with broadening a debate to include terms when side of proposition is generalizing. You're saying that the debate is about a majority, but that is not true, because a debate is about all the other things. You cannot ignore the minorities that are there. Because when you say a modern day influencer is only a publicity hungry narcissist, you are also trying to blame these people on social media platforms which are working for social causes. Do you think you are doing justice to them? First question. Secondly, sir, you need to understand that what the word influencer means, and the topic, the motion that side proposition is proposing does not mention the word social media. So why should we as opposition consider only social media influences? we must also consider other forms of influencers that are there, because even people who create short films or people who create other kinds of films and other people who influence society and public and the large masses of public in general, they are also influencers. So not considering them would not prove justice to this debate. Thank you. I hope that satisfies your question.
Thank you, Speaker. Tanvi, do we have time for another question?
No, we don't.
Nick, we can proceed with the second speaker.
Thank you.
I'd now like to call upon the next speaker, Pradyum, who will be speaking for the motion.
Now, we all know the debate over the validity of social media influencers or any influencers at all. One side denies their social position and claims that they do not deserve the social position that they have acquired, and the other side supports these influencers and stands by them, much like the debate we are having today. Now, to really have productive discussion over this topic, we need to ask one question. Who is an ideal influencer? What are we expecting when we talk about an influencer or when we're listening to an influencer? First, an influencer has a concrete philosophy. Now, an influencer has to have a system of thought or a concrete philosophy to influence these his or her or their listeners, because in the end we all influence people through our ideas, and that is the very foundational basis of an influencer. An influencer influences other people through his or her ideas, which they have founded through empiricism, experience, and have therefore believe in. Now, the second point: an influencer produces outward growth. An influencer should produce outward growth. When an influencer influences his or her listeners through a certain philosophy, an influencer has the obligation to influence these listeners to produce some change in their lifestyle or their system of thought. Therefore, an ideal influencer should have a concrete philosophy and produce outward growth in their listeners. Now, there is a very pertinent issue to take up before I start with my constructives. Today, the opposition will talk about a specific minority of influencers, the micro level influencers who are creating ground change at the ground level. Now, understand the fact that when we are debating the very concept of an influencer, we are talking about a majority. And when we're talking about modern day influencers, we are inevitably talking about social media too, because social media is where all the biz of these influencers is. And today we have to define that majority by the number of people that an influencer reaches, and not by the number of influencers that are actually creating change or are actually not creating change. Because let's face it, today influencing is about the reach that an influencer certain produces, how many followers on Instagram the influencer has, and this is what the industry has become about today. Now, I would like to start my first constructive, the subject matter of influencers. Now these influencers do have a philosophy superficially, but this is only a facade. They do not have any logical reasoning. They do not have any research skills. They do not have any genuine intent, and therefore they do not have a philosophical agenda to address. What they do have is intentional controversy, picking beef to produce media reaction, hypocritical action, and the intent to attract media biz through their so-called philosophies. Now, their philosophies are about collectivism and tolerating other people, the forwarding of liberalism and accepting other people as they are. But you only have to look at major influencers like James Charles, David Dobrik, and Chrissy Steigen, who aim to inspire people and spread positivity, but have never spoken about these issues in depth and have actually been the perpetrators of these very issues in themselves by committing cyberbullying and by committing sexual assault. Now, moving on to my second constructive. Outward growth. Now, modern day influencers do not produce outward growth, but in fact, they produce inward growth. Their campaigns are based on generating buzz and attracting followers. They build a fan base that has a herd mentality. This fan base is not obsessed with their ideas, but is obsessed with their brand. It is obsessed with the person, and therefore, sociological research also shows that today the very structure of a fan base parallels the structure of a cult. This can be exemplified by two examples: the advent of OnlyFans, where content is leased to consumers by consumers paying for this content, and secondly, the advent of thousands of fan clubs, which are only obsessed with the brand that an influencer creates and not the actual content of the creator. This leads me to my last point: the economic gap between producers and consumers. When we are talking about modern day influencers, we're talking about very rich people who are producing content and getting money from it. There is no problem in gaining money from a certain endeavor. But today you have to look at the, concluding my statements, today we just only have to look at the profit motive that is prevalent in this influencer society, which produces content and influences other people only to gain money or only to gain economic or social prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. The house is now open for questions. Saksham, please ask your question.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. Mr. Speaker, what justification do you have to give for taking these various interpretations for what a modern day influencer would mean? Because first you wanted to talk about the majority, then you said you wanted to talk about only the rich elite influencers that are there on social media towards the end of the speech, sir. You mentioned that. So are you not ignoring the existence of others, and what justification do you have for ignoring their existence? Please clarify.
So, thank you for your speech. Thank you for your question, sir. So, in your question, in the beginning of my speech, I spoke about how today, like when we define majority, we're talking about the most reach that an influencer has. What kind of influencers are the majority of the people following? And therefore, when we look at the majority of the people are catering to the content of those influencers who do not have concrete philosophies and to conduct their philosophy or to conduct their influencing because of the profit motive to gain socioeconomic prosperity while completely confusing the borders between reason and actual thought and controversy and farcical philosophy. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Do we have time for a second question?
Yes, we do.
Trinayana, please ask your question. Trinayana, you can go ahead with your question. Since you're not asking your question, does anybody else have a question? I think we can proceed with Kinjala. Please ask your question.
Thank you so much, sir, for recognition. Thank you, sir, for your speech. Now, you mentioned in your speech that how modern day influencers are influencing people and everything, but do you not realize the fact that the topic for today's debate is whether or not they are social media narcissists who want things for their personal gain? Don't you understand that narcissism is a mental disorder and not just a personality trait, but also a mental disorder? So how do you go about this, explaining this point?
Thank you for your question. So first, I would like to dispute the very claim by you that narcissism is a mental disorder. There are several cases where it does become a mental disorder bordering on biological illness. But when we talk about narcissism in itself, it's a concept or a personality trait associated with a person being too full of themselves. Now, talking about how social media influencers can be narcissists or people who only have personal agendas, I prove that they do not have any philosophical agenda to address because they have farcical systems of thought and therefore create controversy to generate media buzz. I believe this proves that they have personal agendas to address and not philosophical agendas. Now, the second point, that they work through the profit motive and they simply do not have they work through the profit motive and they simply do not have anything to say. When you talk about this reach that they have produced without having anything to say or working through the profit motive, you're simply talking about how they have become publicity seeking narcissists, and you're talking about how they have become narcissists. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Nick, we can proceed with the next speaker.
I'd now like to call upon Dhruv, who will be speaking against the motion.
Right, so may I begin?
Yes.
Good morning to one and all present here. The motion that has been given to us, which reads before this August House, reads that the modern day influencer is only a publicity hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. And I, as a member of side opposition, I'm going to prove to you how uncorroborated, unsubstantiated, and unjust the motion at hand truly is. At the very outset, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I'd like to move on to what the burden of proof of side opposition is. That is what we as side opposition have to prove to you in order to win this debate. Today, ladies and gentlemen, on our side of the house, we tell you that influencers are publicity hungry not because of a personal agenda, but because they want to positively influence their followers' way of living, which in fact, ladies and gentlemen, is built on the foundations of empathy, which is quite the opposite of being a narcissist, which is quite the opposite of the bandwagon of narcissism, which is being propagated by side proposition. Let me prove this to you with the help of three constructives. Number one, speaking about the gross generalization and the cloaked ambiguity in this motion, which lies, ladies and gentlemen, within the very miscalculated and uncorroborated generalization by side proposition. While side opposition on our side of the house give you a holistic view, give you a holistic management of the motion at hand, what side proposition does is not only focus on a loud minority of influencers, but completely discard each and every kind of influencer which falls under the bracket of today's debate. We on side opposition do concede that yes, A loud minority of influencers might be publicity hungry narcissists, but to make it a universal claim, in my opinion and inside opposition's opinion, in the entire realm of influencers would not only be egregious, but would also be archaic. Moving on to my second point. Ladies and gentlemen, on social media today, we find an entire fleet of influencers who earn little to no money, indicating a lack of personal agenda, influencing people and their followers to not only adopt a healthy way of living, interacting with their followers to address stigmatized social issues such as rape, such as suicide, so all these suicide tendency groups that we have, which people do tend to influence others on, spreading awareness about mental health issues, which has been largely neglected not only by the Indian society, but also by large sects of the Western society, which all of these influencers try to influence positively in the life of their very own followers. Examples of that, ladies and gentlemen, would be Greta Thunberg, who protests for positive climate change; Blue Wallace, who takes examples who takes personal trauma and shared experiences from her very own life and educates people about the benefits of sustainable eating from the food shortage experiences she went through in Brighton; Emmy Lucas, who extols the benefit of vegan eating, who yet again takes experiences from her very own life to influence other people, to positively impact other people. Moving on to my third constructive, which addresses a major clash which I see in today's debate in the first three speeches: the micro versus the mega level influencers debate. Today in the debate, ladies and gentlemen, we've seen side proposition come up and conveniently discard a large majority of people who fall under the bracket of being a modern day influencer. Embodied, in my opinion, by the long-standing social belief of popularity being an indication of quality, side proposition builds its arguments on foundations made of sand. Education about sensitive matters, personal life experiences, trauma for some of them, makes them sufficiently qualified and sufficiently educated to speak about these matters, makes them sufficiently qualified to talk about these matters and to positively influence when with regards to this matter, which makes themselves get publicity in the first place, which is exactly what, ladies and gentlemen, we as followers are attracted to in the first place, without which they wouldn't have publicity in the first place, without which they wouldn't have even the disorder to be a narcissist, which is where the entire line of argumentation which side proposition has tried to advance today falls flat on its face. Examples of that, ladies and gentlemen, would be famous personalities who've turned into influencers, who have no personal motive. They are already, ladies and gentlemen, at the pinnacle of popularity within their fields of work. They do not need more popularity. They cannot get more popularity because they're already at the pinnacle of their popularity. They're already at the pinnacle of within their fields of work. Selena Gomez, for example, ladies and gentlemen, talks about mental health. Emma Watson talks about climate change, talks about positive climate change. These people, ladies and gentlemen, are already at the pinnacle of popularity within their fields of work. They influence because they want to create a positive change, which comes from the very feeling of empathy, which, if side proposition wasn't aware, is completely the opposite of what narcissism means, is completely the opposite of being a narcissist means. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to rest my case, but not my stance. I'm very, 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 very proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. The House is now open for questions. Does anyone have a question? Pradhyuman, please go ahead.
Sorry, I raised my hand by mistake. Please excuse it.
No problem. Karthike, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. Sir, is there cloud hunting and follower hunting not a personal agenda?
So I never dispute. What relevance does that have to my speech? I'm not being able to get, but I'll try to clarify that anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, what we as side opposition are trying to say is that a certain set of influencers, we do concede that. We are trying to give you a holistic view. We are not trying to paint a picture perfect utopian world today. We do concede that, yes, certain influencers, certain set of influencers are built on narcissism, are built on being publicity hungry. However, to generalize that, however, to expand that and to apply that to each and every modern day influencer is what we as side opposition take issue with, is what I as a personality take issue with, is what this entire motion is built on, which is a facade. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Tanavi, do we have time for another question?
Yes, we do.
Sudhakar, please go ahead with your question.
Mr. Speaker, you came here very properly to say that side opposition supports both and takes all the influences into consideration. But why have you been only harping or talking about all the influencers who are already earning pretty well, have already a very stable lifestyle? You've been talking about their good work and everything about them, but you have yourself broadly neglected that fact that there are other poor influencers also who require and take it as a profession.
Sir, if you if you paid attention to the first part of my speech, if you paid attention to the first three constructives, actually, What I spoke about was micro level influencers. What I spoke about is influencers coming from the suburbs of Brighton. What I spoke about is influencers coming from all of these places which have little to no money, which have little to no money motive with them, which have little to no profit motive with them. And the fact of the matter is that I spoke about community outreach within these small places, within these small influencers, within the influencers that work at the micro level. After that, I spoke about the influencers at the macro level, yes. However, the large majority of my speech was focused on these micro level influencers who create community outreach, who try to positively influence other people's lives without having little to no money to do with it. So the fact of the matter that you would bring this up would make me believe that a large majority of my speech was left unheard by you. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Nick, we can go ahead with the next speaker.
I'd now like to call upon Harshvardhan Pal, who will be speaking for the motion.
This I is the ego that we must avoid at any cost. If we truly wish to be different from narcissists, instead of using the I repeatedly, it would be wise to replace it with the. Good morning, everybody. Today, I am here to speak for the motion that modern day influencers is only a publicity hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. With continuous increase of social media use, we often wonder if it has any negative impacts on our well-being. Some people have hypnotized the possible correlation with excessive social media use and narcissism. I make the statement that social media has created a generation of self-obsessed narcissists. All social media platforms are comprised of mass of individuals competing against each other for followers, likes, retweets, favorites, and whichever other show of approval exists out there, rather than any sort of collective goal. Sure, this isn't the only purpose, and penalty of winning interaction occurs without any sort of agenda. But there is masses upon masses of people who utilize it as means of projecting an idealized version of themselves out in the world, an avatar of the person that they wish they were, rather than who they are in reality. It's logical that such an extreme focus on self has a tendency to spill over into self-obsession. But this goes far beyond people taking too many photos of them and treating every action as hashtagging opportunity. Every life event, however irrelevant to their social media audience, become a source of self-promoting content. I doubt that anyone would be able to explain why they do it, because it's likely a reflexive behavior. They learn that sharing things gets them validation, which feels good, so they continue to share. Every like and retweets gives the brain cell a small rush of dopamine, comparably to a tiny hit of cocaine. The cynicism that social media has fostered is striking. As you might know, Heisnomity, which is a German-based English streetwear blog, media brand, and production agency launched in 2005 by David Fischner, based in Berlin. It covers trends and news in fashion, art, music, and culture. In December last year, an Islamic fundamentalist drove a truck through a Christmas market in the west of the city, killing 12 and injuring 56 in the process. Facebook, with its long or reaching finger that is constantly on the pulse of global events, added a clicking feature that allows its Berlin-based user to let everyone know that they are safe, so they don't have to reply to worried friends or relatives individually. I am going to dispute that this was helpful, but it's what happened after that made me groan. The more avid social media influencers, you know the types, the usually same infidel clowns that use a Snapchat dog filter, all rush to give their take on the tragedy to tell the world how they felt about it. They struggle to remember everyone. I struggle to remember everybody who did this, and I'm not going to go through my feed for everyone, but I will use example that stick most in my mind. One of the modern day influencers wrote, "I am okay, but at least 9 people are not, and that's not okay. Yes, mass murder is okay, and just as snow is cold and chemical formula of carbon dioxide is CO2, what purpose this serve the part of confirming other social media platform users that you are not a sociopath. The response, of course. I think the real cynicism is how human strategies have been converted into content for Facebook and Instagram and a promotional opportunity for people using it. To conclude that, I would like to submit my motion that modern day influencer is actually a publicity hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. I would like to rest my voice, but not my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Participants, please note that if there is any camera malfunction from your side, the judges will penalize you for that. If there is any camera malfunction, you are requested to contact us immediately. The house is now open for questions. Saksham, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. Mr. Speaker, you've talked about the cynicism that social media has promoted, but you're ignoring the aspect of social media which has promoted social inclusiveness in our society. Wherein in the 60s, you could have been arrested for being a homosexual. Now people are talking about it. Now people have normalized issues like these and made our world a better place by including everyone. So how is that a wrong thing when influencers are normalizing such concepts? Please justify.
With due permission of the chair, I would like to answer. The influencers are using the incidents and some things to promote themselves. People who are already on a peak of their popularity don't use such thing. The people who want to get popularity, they use such incidents to make themselves popular and promote themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Tanuvi, do we have time for another question?
Yeah, there is time.
Ayush, please go ahead with your question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, what my question is, dear speaker, that the modern day influencers have arise the influences that existed during their times, and I think subsequently when the new set of
can you please repeat your question? You're actually not audible.
Yeah, sure. The modern day influencers which exist today are actually because of the influencers that existed in olden days during that time, and we have seen the subsequent rise in the artificial intelligence and the technology. And similarly, if these influencers go on, I think people are going to take this more and more, and hence the technology and artificial intelligence is going to increase. So comment on this with respect to the topic.
I would like to comment on this by saying that the more artificial intelligence is increasing and more people want to be influencers. They actually don't want to be influencers, they want popularity, and they are using many incidents to it as a promotional opportunity for them. The more the population, the more the artificial intelligence, the more the influencers and more the narcissism. I think this satisfies your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. 2 notes for the participants. The interjectors are requested to keep their questions short and precise. And the participants are requested to check if they are audible and visible before beginning the debate. Nick, we can proceed with the next speaker.
I'd now like to call upon Kudrat, who will be presenting his against the motion.
Am I audible, Chair?
Yes, you're audible and visible. Please proceed.
Thank you so much. With the permission of the Chair, I would like to begin. Narcissism is a voluntary blindness, an agreement not to look beneath the surface. Greetings to the House at large. I'm here today to strongly oppose the topic that modern day influencers are only publicity-hungry narcissists with their own personal agendas. A report by the Economic Times, which states that, and I quote, since the initial days of pandemic, Besson, an influencer, has been creating such content on social media. She has been meaning to do this for a while. The pandemic gave her the time and motivation she needed to sensitize people on all mental health care at the time when they needed the most. Her content in the form of Instagram reels and videos is aimed at adolescents, young adults, and psychology students. I take whatever format or song is trending on Reels and use it to create an educational but entertaining video around mental health. says a 24-year-old from Delhi. Her account has added over 20,000 followers in last few months, and all drawn towards this content. Like Basil, several therapists in India and all around the world have taken to social media to create awareness around mental health during this ongoing pandemic that has caused what a psychologist described as a worldwide shared trauma. It is fascinating because traditionally most therapists have not been active on social media, especially in their professional avatar. Now they're using memes and trending videos formats to put their messages across. In under 9 months, they have grown into a community where therapists from diverse communities across the world follow each other, DM, directly messaging, for collaborations, and also for booking sessions with clients via DMs. They are signing brand collaborations deals and also dealing with trolls, much like regular social media influencers. While many prefer to be called mental health advocates as opposed to mental health influencers, their qualification automatically makes them a far more credible voice on psychotherapy and psychoeducation than the well-meaning advocates of mental health. I'm sure that this report tells us enough that the modern day influencers are not publicity narcissists and are actually addressing major issues like mental health. There are also influencers who are not only addressing issues like mental health, but are also supporting the LGBTQ community. Such a platform for their community will help them and encourage them. There are various online websites and Instagram pages who are supporting and promoting the LGBT community, which is creating awareness among the people all around the world that there are people who love, who are there, and there is nothing about it. There is nothing wrong about it. And all that awareness is spreading because of the influences which some of you believe are narcissists. I get it. As soon as the word influencers or social media comes to your mind, you believe it is negative and that they're popular, and whoever is popular, basically society terms them as attention seekers. But I would like to tell you that they are not attention seekers. They're actually addressing some major issues. There are social media influencers who are promoting economic development of the society. And according to an article by National Geography, social media influencers are individuals who utilize social media platforms to build their own personal brand or influence their followers to act, including buying products, supporting a brand, or vacationizing in a certain location. So that clearly tells us that social media influencers are not only thinking of themselves and addressing their personal agenda, but are also addressing various issues. And in the end, I would just like to say, ladies and gentlemen, there are influencers who are standing and speaking up about issues which everyone sitting in this meeting or in your society or in this country, rather than this world as a whole, is concerned with. If not influencers who influence and talk about it, then who will address this? Who will address all these issues? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House is now open for questions. Janvi, please go ahead.
Thank you for the recognition, Chair. Madam Speaker, you talked about mental health advocates and LGBTQI plus advocates too, and you said how they're utilizing social media platforms and other platforms for advocating such things, right? But I wouldn't call them advocates, but there could be false representators of such communities and spreading false information about it. There could be people who are maybe there could be people who are instead of influencing, they're spreading negative impact on it. How would you say about that?
First of all, Madam Speaker, I would like to tell you that there are always positive and negative sides of everything. So if there are people who are, there are influencers who are posting negative comments about mental health and LGBTQ community, I would like to say that there are always people who are going to oppose it and always people who are going to support the side of these people. So I would like to tell you that I'm talking about as a whole that there are majority of the influencers who are promoting LGBTQ community, and if there are people who are posting negative comments upon it, I think our influencers are there to tell them that it's incorrect. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Tanuvi, do we have time for another question?
Yes, we do.
Pradyuman, please go ahead with your question.
Um, Thank you for your speech, speaker. In one part of your speech, you spoke about how these influencers help the economic development of the country. However, considering the fact that these influencers are quickly reaching the top 10% in the income distribution of the country and are providing more revenue to exploitative tech giants who uphold exploitative capitalism and exploit their workers, how can you say that they are supporting the economic development of any country instead of actually corrupting the situation that is prevalent in the social media platforms with regards to the economy?
Yeah, I would like to answer that question. First of all, they are making their own brands. Giving example of Kylie Jenner, we all know she has her own brand, Kylie Cosmetics. So I would like to tell you that they being entrepreneurs and starting their businesses creates employment opportunities and in turn giving rise, reducing the problem of unemployment and yeah, so basically they are promoting economic development, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you, madam. Nick, we can go ahead with the next speaker.
I'd like to call upon Sudhakar, who will be speaking for the motion.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
With the permission of the chair.
You're not visible.
Could you just please give me a second?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
My video cam is not working, sir. Am I visible now?
I don't think so. No, sir, you're not visible.
Wait.
It's no problem. Please take your time. We can move on to the next speaker if his camera and microphone are working. Nick, who's the next speaker?
Ayush, is your...
That would be Ayush.
Ayush? We'll move on to the next speaker, and slots 7 and 8 can present their arguments after the conclusion of the arguments of other speakers. Nick, can we move on to the next speaker?
Okay.
Yes.
Is it my turn to speak?
Yes, Ayush. Is your camera and microphone working?
Am I visible? I think yes.
No, you're not visible.
Well, I have switched on my camera. I don't know what's the problem. Should I start with the speech or?
Could you, we'll contact you shortly. Sudhakar, we can see you. So you can proceed with your argument.
Sure.
Judges will be proceeding with number 7.
Sudhakar, they cannot see you. They can see me. Achha, now they can see you.
Sure. With the permission of the chair. A warm good morning to everyone present here. To the topic under the anvil is the modern day influencer is only a publicity hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. But I would like to make it very clear to the side opposition. I am not here to say that this person or the influencer is a person, and I'm not here to say that he is an immoral person. Everyone knows that a person has more than just his profession. And if you see that the qualities that the trademarks publicity hungry narcissist and with a personal agenda comes only when this person comes into his profession or tries to take up the profession of influencer, and which is very necessary, and that shall be the burden of my proof as side proposition. Now if you see here, why does a person or an influencer need popularity? Why is he popularity hungry? Because once you become an influencer, you have to be popularity hungry, because if you have no person to hear to, no person to actually look at you or speak up to you, or a person who does not care for your views, then it's equivalent to not speaking at all in the first place. Second, why is he going to be a narcissist? Why does he have to become a narcissist? Because if I as a person, if I as an influencer do not prove to my burden or do not have belief in my own self that my the thing that I bid for is the best, then how shall I to the masses make them believe that how is my product the best or what I provide to you is the best? That is why we need to look at it to a very rational point of view rather than stick it into a moral way. The second reason and the third reason why he has to be a personal agenda, because if you see an influencer today, an influence has been, as my side opposition has probably very promptly stated, is a profession, i.e. a means of earning bread and butter. And hence once if he does not take this into consideration, if he does not side one side, or he just or he does not side one side, then how is he going to earn? Very promptly, I would like to state to the side opposition that there are words in this dictionary known as collaboration and joint working, and very promptly the opposition has completely come and said that social media is not the only topic, or is not the only influencers way, and but they have, and there are other sources, but they have never themselves tried to broach upon that because they know that they fall weak. Influencer is not a person only believing in social media or only working on social media. An influencer is a stakeholder of economy, is a worker of stakeholder of economy also, and we should not neglect upon that fact. And in such situations, it is not his choice to become a publicity hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. It is because of the situations that into it, and he has to become that. And that is why an influencer is only a publicity hungry narcissist, because it is his profession. He has to take it up. Now, if today, if I go to a person, if I go to a girl and give her a rose directly, the next thing I know, I will get a slap on my face, and that's a very obvious fact. And that is where popularity plays a very important role that makes me eligible to it. I love pizzas, and it is all might like it also. A very majority might like it also. Does it really prove the fact that what it's made of, the materials that it's made of, is not junk? It might be appealing, it might be this, but does it say that it is? Does it prove that it is good for your health? And this is same where influences us. Influences, like my opposition say, I believe in the fact that they bring changes in society. They bring good changes in society. That is necessary. But does that mean that they are not publicity hungry? They are not narcissists, or they are not having a personal agenda? Because at the end of the world, if a person is not able to earn bread and butter of his day, is not able to keep his family wealthy or his family at peace, then how does he believe, or how will he be? Or in such situation, I do not think that there's a person in this world who would like to sacrifice himself or sacrifice his family at the worth of a noble cause. If you see, the side proposition has come here and said very classy that social media is not the only place, but they have never dealt upon anything else. I do not deny the fact that people influences do not have nothing, are not morally upright or not, but once they become, or that person takes up the job of influencer, he has to be money minded. And first of all, and the last rebuttal, which with I will end my case, is that influencer does not require a qualification. That my side opposition has clearly come up to that he has qualification. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. The House is now open for questions. Saksham, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Chair, for the recognition. Mr. Speaker, right at the start of your speech, you've talked about how a person, an influencer, is much more than a narcissist and a publicity hungry narcissist. But then why are you proposing a motion that says that the modern day influencer is only a publicity hungry narcissist? Because then even you are coming from a place of hatred towards that particular sect of people. Please justify.
Mr. Interjector, I have no hatred against you. I have no hatred against anyone on this world. But if you please hear to my speech again, take up 2 minutes and rewind yourself and listen to my speech again. I said that the person has more than that. And you clearly in your speech mentioned that influencer is one type of profession also. So hence the person, once he takes up a profession, then he has to become a publicity hungry narcissist and with a personal agenda. That once he picks up that profession, then only will he have to take to this. Or else, as a normal human, he can be much more than what he is. I'm not calling him immoral or ignoble person in this planet. I'm just saying that once he picks up that particular profession, that is when he has to start having these traits or has to portray these traits in order to meet the requirements of his profession. Thank you. And I hope that answers your question.
Tanuvi, do we have time for another question?
Yes, we do.
Harshita, please go ahead with your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Dear speaker, you mentioned in your speech that we do not have any modern influencers who have sacrificed themselves for a noble cause, or they have left their self behind for a noble cause. But we do have many examples in our history and even in the present where people sacrifice their needs, sacrifice their self, and do help the society to make it a better place. Kindly comment.
Mr. Speaker, it is very promptly said that, and when I promptly called it a profession, you yourself as side opposition or the opposition speakers have already come up to say that that influencers are of three types. You say that influencers are rich, they are mediocre who take it as a profession, and there's some people who do not take it as a profession at all. They just use it as a fun or a means of enjoyment. Now, in such a situation, if we see to the people who have sacrificed, if you see to the people or the very few nicknamed specific people who have done for this cause are actually the people who fall in the first category, that is they're rich, that and have already a very significant state on there. But if you go to a modern day person or a modern day worker like me or you or anyone or any influencer who is actually working with it as a cause of existence, for him in such a situation he has to have or he has to become a bit selfish towards himself, because then only will he be able to suffice for his family. Because at the end it's a profession. He might bring good to the society, he might even bring bad. There are both situations in which he might work. But if we see in a very rational case, he himself as a person will only agitate the masses to make the government work with him. He can't individually, if you take a mediocre person, he can't individually instigate as well as fund it. And that's where influencers are actually the people who influence. It does not say he actually funds everything. So your question holds, and with the respect or definition of influencer is actually taking a bit too more than what he is. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, speaker. We can move on to the next speaker.
Our next speaker is Ayush, and he'll be speaking against the motion.
Okay, am I visible?
Yes, you're visible and you're audible. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. So, greetings to the house at large. Henry Drummond once said that the people who influence you are the people who believe in you. And what I would like to further state is that the job of an influencer is to make sure that everybody under him has great opportunities and that they feel that they are having a meaningful impact. So today I Cadet Ayush Dwivedi of Rashtriya Indian Military College is here to speak against the motion, and I start off my speech with the first constructive, that is the influencers can help us create online buzzes, the trends and the reputation, and which can improve the masses at large. A great investment and increase in the overall marketing is the result of the influencers, especially in the IT sector, in the YouTube sector, and many more. When I come to notice about the side proposition, they just limit these influencers to the YouTubers, to the Instagrammers who are actually working for the personal agenda. But it's not actually limited to it. Rather, it has a very big meaning. We have such YouTubers which have been helping people throughout. There have been the motivation speaker, there have been the politicians, and many more. They set cultural trends, they engage the masses and the conversation amongst themselves. The masses get to experience more and more, and they are actually refined so that they are able to live in a proper world. The second constructed that I want to state is that they inspire minors to behave pro-socially and more healthy. These influencers, the great influencers, they have even people who are working under them which are not very famous. Had they been thinking about their narcissism or their publicity trends, they would have surely not given any link to the people under them. Rather, they want those people to develop and flourish, and hence they have given the link to the people below them. The modern evolving era, the new apps, the IT sector, they have evolved, especially due to the people in artificial intelligence. The new influencers which exist in today's world, they have come up from the modern influencers which existed during their time, and hence there has been a subsequent change in the line of the technology. Young people especially are the influencers which hold their images, and even the young people are influenced from those young people who are the influencers, and hence we can say that they have the same feeling which is among those youngs who are watching it and the people who are actually sharing it. Now, when I move toward my third constructive, I would say that especially famous influencers have further thought of only they have not only thought of narcissism, rather they have thought of people. Yes, they might be doing it for their personal agenda, but do they forget their ideology to help people? For example, when I say Jeff Bezos, Greta Thunberg, the great climate activist, she has been a very rad influencer which has influenced the whole world. They rather being so rich. Even when I go about talking about this rich people, they rather being so rich, they actually have the knowledge that yes, people need entertainment, people need recreational time out of their hectic schedule, and hence they are following their ideology. I hope that people know about the motivational speakers like Wayne Dyer, Nick Vujicic. He's a physically disabled person who does not have a limb, but see his charm, see his greatness in the YouTube world. You know, people are actually motivated towards those people. And well, when I move to the conclusion, I would say that a person who is taking these things from those motivational influencers says that yes, what an idea it is. And hence I would at last conclude my speech by this. Thank you and have a nice day ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The House is now open for questions. Manya, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you, sir, for your speech. You mentioned in your speech that influencers influence minors to behave pro-socially. So I would like to ask you to justify how sometimes influencers also influence minors who are children to commit crimes such as drug crimes or sexual assault solely because these minors are subjected to whatever scandals some of these problematic influencers are engaged in only because of the fact that they follow them. And then these crimes are normalized in the society.
Thank you for the question, interjector. I would like to say that the minors which I talked about were actually those people who don't find any employment conditions, any literacy. Rather, when they see these motivational influencers, or not actually motivational influencers, but even the people on YouTube, they feel that being a YouTuber will be a good profession, so that they feed their own family, they can feed themselves, because they don't have enough resources for the education and for the employment. I hope this answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tanuvi, do we have time for another question?
Yes, there is time.
Dhruv, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you, sir, for your speech. So you spoke at length about how these influencers influence a certain group of people who subscribe to their school of thought, or who subscribe to the certain set of ideas that they possess. So do you not recognize the sect of social media influencers who just bandwagon on certain principles without actually having sufficient education or actually having sufficient qualifications to speak about them? They just do because it's socially acceptable to do so.
Okay, thank you for the speaker. Thank you for the question. Sorry. What I feel is that these people, they are not actually going for just these things. Yes, they do know that they are not actually illiterate properly, but yes, when they are going about this, they think that it's a recreational time for the people. You know, you have a hectic schedule around you. You have to go. People have to go for their schools, and when schools or workplace. Now, when they need a recreational time, these influencers, they know that yes, a recreation or an entertainment is much more required in one's life apart from the work that they do. So even if they are not educated enough or not qualified enough to go for those social media platforms, yet they actually realize that ideology, that yes, they have to be a good factor in people's life. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Participants, please note that cross-questioning and follow-up questions are not allowed, and participants are requested to raise their hands only after the House has been declared open for questions. We can move ahead with the next speaker.
The next speaker will be Trinayana, who will be speaking for the motion.
Trinayana, are you there? She's there in the meeting. Trinayana, are you experiencing any malfunction problems?
I think she's facing some trouble with her mic.
Then we can move on to the next speaker.
I'd like to call upon Aditi, who will be speaking against the motion.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, with the permission of the chair. Good morning to the House at large. Today's topic states that the modern day influencer is only a publicity hungry narcissist with a personal agenda, and I, Aditi Thekedar, stand here firmly opposing the motion. I don't wish to overcomplicate my argument, so I'll simply be presenting my views. Let me start off by defining what the word influencer stands for. Influencers are people who have built a reputation for their knowledge and expertise on a specific topic and can share their opinions on different matters. There are many types of influencers out there on the internet, so let me take the example of social media influencers for now. They make regular posts about the topics of their preferred choice on social media channels and generate a large following of enthusiastic, engaged people who pay close attention to their views. People turn to these influencers not only for entertainment, but also for information, advice, company, and even comfort at times. If one could diagnose narcissism based on what somebody posts on Instagram, then we as a society would be the definition of judging a book by its cover. These influencers that are bluntly being termed as publicity hungry narcissists are the same people who use the huge platform that they have for a greater cause as well, be it spreading awareness about climate change like Greta Thunberg or talking about mental health issues, among many other things. If the majority really were motivated only for their personal agenda, that the issues of the world would be completely ignorant to them, and they wouldn't even be addressing it on the platform that they are provided with. There's so many people out there on the internet who inspire the youth to break free from the shackles of society. And they promote many inspiring causes such as body positivity campaigns and even flaunting their sexuality, such as a prominent public figure on the internet as Bretman Rock. Although it is true that there are few influencers out there who are studied to be proven to be narcissistic, but a debate as such, the one that we're discussing today, cannot be solely based on simple minorities. The overall bigger picture needs to be taken into consideration. There's so many people on the internet who use their platform for the greater cause, and they promote a lot of well-being of the people of the society. All the social rights activists that are out there on the internet, they talk about many important issues that people at home might be troubled to talk about with their parents, but then being exposed to the internet, being exposed to these influencers, it gives them exposure to the outside world, and it helps them you clear their thought processes and think about the bigger picture of what the world outside holds for them. I think it is really silly to think that these influencers are narcissistic because they've done so much for society as a whole. Like I mentioned in my speech, breaking free from these shackles. The side proposition mentioned in one of their speeches that influencers don't even work 1 month a year. That statement totally gets me to question our judgment of the youth of today's society. Being an influencer is a job that so many people hold, and they have to work just as hard as anyone else to earn a living. Because any other job in the world requires you to do a certain amount of things to earn a basic income to like sustain yourself and live a life. There's no such work out there in the world that is going to pay you without doing any job. So that statement falls flat. With that, I would like to rest my case and not my cause. Extremely proud to oppose. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech, ma'am. The House is now open for questions. Sudhakar, please go ahead with your question.
Mr. Speaker, you came here and very bluntly told us that every influencer or every influencer who does anything for the good of the society is actually is inane or is a person of good morals. But is it solely, or can you 100% tell me that is he actually with that mindset? Because I believe in the fact that clicking a picture on the final day when the job is accomplished and looking for the job throughout till it's accomplished are two different factors.
Thank you for your question, Speaker. I think this is very subjective because everybody's intentions would be different, of course. But then, in the bigger picture, looking at the bigger picture, I believe an influencer doesn't just post a picture just to show that he or she has done the work that they've done. Being a social rights activist or at least spreading awareness isn't just about like maybe they did post about what they've achieved, but then the fact that they achieved it, I think, is the more important cause at hand.
Thank you, ma'am. Tanavi, do we have time for another question?
Yes, we do.
Pradyuman, please go ahead with your question.
Thank you for your speech, ma'am. In your speech, you said that people listen to influencers because they pay close attention to their views and also receive information from them. Considering that social media misinformation has seen a very huge spike in the recent years, and a majority of the social media channels are concentrated with respect to these social media influencers who have been held liable for the social media information, how do you justify that statement that people are actually receiving valid information from social media influencers?
Could you please repeat your question, Speaker? I think I got cut off in the middle. I'm so sorry.
Ma'am, in your speech, you said that listeners to influencers pay close attention to their views, actually listen to them for valid information. Considering that social media misinformation has seen a very intense spike in the recent years, and social media channels are concentrated with respect to these influencers who propagate these views and have been held liable of not having valid information before presenting their opinions. How do you justify your statement?
Thank you for your question, Speaker. But then again, I think you're really talking about the specific handpicked people out there on the internet. There's so many influencers who do present you with valid arguments and give you the correct information. I don't think it's justifiable to just talk about the few that were in the wrong and didn't follow through with what you're trying to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Trinena, is your camera and microphone working now? We'll wait for you for a couple of minutes, and then we'll move on to the next speaker if the problem persists. Trinena? Trinena will present her arguments after the conclusion of the last speaker. We can move on with the next speaker. Nick?
I'd like to call upon the next speaker, Simranjeet, who will be speaking for the motion.
Am I visible?
Yes, ma'am, you're visible and audible. Please proceed.
Some people try too hard for social media, but not hard enough in real life. Good morning, honorable judges, respected teacher, and my worthy opponents. Thank you for allowing me to join this debate on the topic modern day influencer is not only the publicity hungry narcissist with personal agenda. I am Simranjeet Kaur and I will be speaking for the motion. In many debates, this has come up that social media influencers are not a narcissist, but I do not agree to this. I challenge you to name a single development that has shaped mass culture as social media. It has changed the way we communicate. It facilitates the victory of political leader, has separated us into reality distorting bubbles, cause an addiction-like response in human brains, and threatens to destroy the news industry. Listing all the ways that is altered our way is a fool errand and is tracing all of its side effects. But there's an argument that I will make. It has turned an entire generation into weapon narcissists. From disciplined selfie angles to Snapchat filters that make average looking people attractive, to curating your Snapchat feed so it looks like you are having more fun than you actually are. All social media platforms comprises of a mass of individuals competing against each other for followers, likes, tweets, and whichever other show of approval exists out there rather than any sort of collective goal. Sure, this isn't only purpose, and plenty of attraction occurs without any sort of agenda, but there are masses upon masses of people who utilize it as means of projecting an idealized version of themselves onto the world, an avatar of people which they wish they were rather than who they are in reality. Social media allows us to curate a public image which is perfect for the narcissist drive to look attractive, successful, and popular. Simply put, social media platforms allow narcissists to do what they do in real life: meet new people, expand their circles for followers, and promote themselves endlessly. Not only do narcissists use social media to make themselves feel good, they also log on to many others to feel bad. Narcissism and other dark traits such as sadism, psychopathy have been linked with online trolling. People with those dark traits post to get reaction from others and enjoy arousing anger in users, including people they don't know. Influencers with large followings are more likely to get noticed, draw in brand deals, and become famous. They don't necessarily need a publicist or agent if they are good enough at promoting themselves. So they work hard at it. This doesn't mean that promotions or fame are bad. Simply that social media allows people to self-enhance. Self-enhancement is key feature of narcissism. Logically, such an extreme focus on self tends to spill over into self-obsession. But this goes far beyond people taking too many photos of themselves and treating every action as a hashtagging opportunity. Every life event, however irrelevant to the social media audience, becomes a source of self-promoting content. I will now conclude my speech by saying that I do not suppose narcissist influencer because they play with innocent young minds too. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The house is now open for questions. Manya, please proceed with your question.
Thank you, ma'am, for your speech. The proposition has constantly been tying narcissism to the job of influencing. And I would like to ask you that when influencers constantly receive hate about their body, they'll receive constant hate about every single action, even if they have not done anything wrong. How can you suggest that somebody, they are human after all, how can you suggest that somebody who is receiving constant hate all the time can have a narcissistic mindset, even when there have been cases when these questions, when these accusations have caused very like they have negatively impacted the state of mind of the influencers, even causing depression?
I agree. Thank you for the question, first of all. I agree the situation happens. There are many influencers who go through body shaming, as you said. But my opinion here is that I'm not saying showing their body is wrong, that is their job. But I am saying that it brainwashes young teenagers. Like me, like many others, they look at those influencers and they wish, why do not have their body? They go on dieting, they harm themselves. I feel this both are different topics, which we can't relate. There are different problems which even influencers go through. So yes. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dhruv, please proceed with your question. If there's time. Tanuvi, is there time?
Yes, there's time.
Dhruv, please proceed with your question.
Ma'am, you spoke at length about falsified images that these self-proclaimed narcissistic influencers post on social media. Ma'am, number one, my first question to you with regards to that is, how has that got anything to do with narcissism? The fact that if we look at these posts, we feel a certain way about ourselves. What has that got to do with their narcissistic behavior? Number one. Number two, I would like to introduce a concept called empathy, which is the exact opposite of narcissism. When they post something, when they try to positively influence someone else, doesn't that display empathy and not narcissism, which is the exact opposite of empathy?
I agree. Thank you for the question. And I would like to say that here there's a difference. When we talk about narcissism and empathy, when we talk like influencers, they post a lot of things. Here I spoke about the brainwashed children. I'm not saying posting pictures are bad. I'm saying that when they post such pictures, it brainwashes people, especially young children. And talking about narcissism, influencers have become obsessed with it, if you see. And they are showing off the lives which they don't have. They are going to certain extents, which actually they don't have that lifestyle, just to show people. So I don't think so that's correct.
Thank you, ma'am. We can proceed with the next speaker.
I'd now like to call upon Harshita, who will be speaking against the motion.
Can you see me? Hello?
You're not, yes, you're visible and you're audible. Please proceed.
So, productive narcissists are not only risk takers to get to the job done, but they are charmers who can convert the masses with their rhetoric. Good morning, respected judges, worthy opponents, faculty members. My name is Harshita Soni, and I want to express my gratitude towards you that you showing interest in discussing this topic. The modern day influencer is a publicity hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. First of all, I would like to bring to the point that we need narcissism in a positive way. Narcissists are basically those people who are good, desirous, achieving people who can actually come forward in the society and bring about a change in our society. We need those people because obviously we all know that we are going through a lot of social changes and we do need some social changes. Then I would like to support to the fact that these good, desirous, and educated, achieving people can bring a change in our society. Narcissism, first of all, and again, power hungry are personal traits. A simple minority cannot define a complete profession on narcissistic and power hungry. This varies from every individual, and we cannot generalize a complete profession in such a case. We have many examples like Lakshmi Agarwal. She is currently working with the UNICEF. She's actually an acid attack survivor. She's working with the UNICEF to ban the sale of acid. Then we have Natasha Narwal, Divangana Kalita, and Asif Iqbal Tanha. They have been in the they are from the Jamia Mala case, and they have actually been in the jail for 6 months. Even after coming out, they have denied to the fact that they will stop their struggle. They are going to completely support the fact that they are influencers. They are good influencers who are ready to support, who are ready to change, make a change in the society. As a opponent of mine had mentioned that they do not sacrifice their own selves for others, but I completely disagree. I think they are people who sacrifice their own selves for others. They give up their own needs, and I do not mention that they do give up their needs, basic needs, but I think that they work for the betterment of the society, keeping themselves in the second position. Then we have Sunita Krishnan, who works against sexual violence and trafficking. So we have so many examples in front of us that they do tell us that they are not all power hungry. We have a minority, which again cannot be concluded with a complete big profession. They are people, and then we have a very good example of, like an opponent of mine mentioned, body positivity. We have Lizzo. She's a very good singer, and again, she stands for body. I'm so sorry. Body positivity. There are so many influencers. Then the narcissists have always emerged to inspire and shape people's future. Napoleon Bonaparte, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. These, and even there are some famous industrialists who have brought a complete change in our society. I think, like he had brought the concept of assembly line. So I think these people have completely brought a very good change in our society. They have inspired people. They have shaped their futures. Then we have, even when we're going through a tough time like the pandemic, there have been so many people who have come forward that they are facing some mental health issues and they are not able to talk to people or any mental and issues. So there are so many influencers again who have come forward and realized to the fact that they need to stand up to the need of people. There have been people who have come, who have empowered people, and then we have so many people like Priyanka Chopra. She works for the children, again for the UNICEF. There are so many people who are inspiring us today to become who we are, to become a better place. We can make this country and this world a better place to be in. And again, there's a carrot and a stick position to everything possible. So I would like to rest my case by telling that we need not. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The house is now open for questions. Viva Davaria, please go ahead. Ma'am, you had a question. Please go ahead.
Yes. Hi, this is Ridhima. I'm sorry I couldn't log in from my other laptop, so we're sharing one laptop. Harshita, you mentioned that narcissism, which basically means a lack of empathy for others, is important to bring social change among influencers. Later in your speech, you mentioned that these influencers give up their needs and they put themselves second, which is a very contradictory statement. How could you explain this?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I would like to say that even in the beginning, I said that we need good narcissism. We need good, strong leaders who can shape our future, who can shape our society. Again, a carrot and a stick position, a punishment and a benefit position. By narcissism, I basically refer to being thick-skinned. You have to stand up. You have to stand up for the people who will do well for your society. And again, we choose our influencers and we make them basically influencer. We support them. We like their lifestyle. We like the way they live, the way they are enjoying themselves. And when they're standing for good cause, when yes, so we actually have influencers who stand up in front of us. Who again, you asked the question that there are people who who do not put their needs behind. There are people who put their I think needs or things behind. They are thick-skinned people. They stand for the society. They stand for the noble causes. And I think I mentioned enough examples for this cause. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Tanuvi, do we have time for another question?
No, we don't.
Nick, proceed to the next speaker.
I'd now like to call upon Aditya, who will be speaking for the motion.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. We can't see you yet. Yes, you're visible. Please go ahead.
Good morning to everyone present at the meeting here today. As we all are familiar with the topic under fire for today's debate, which is the modern day influencer is only a publicity-hungry narcissist with a personal agenda. And I, Aditya Masi from Lamartine College, Lucknow, stand here firmly proposing the motion. So let me start off by explaining you all why the topic states modern day influencers specifically. Because influencers back in the time were way more different than we think we've always learned. Because from the experience of our family and friends or look to aspirational figures. However, a big change in recent years has taken place. Of course, social media. All social media platforms are comprised of a mass of individuals competing. And the competition between these influencers have led toward influencers being narcissistic by prioritizing their personal agenda. It is the natural tendency for human beings to be hungry for publicity and status, where it's backed up by unhealthy competition of influencing field. Then they automatically get prone to its developing narcissistic tendencies. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm trying to explain you all here, how influencers, yes, people who used to rule over the marketing industries have changed through the time, hiding behind the global pandemic as an excuse because influencers lead the marketing industries, and how it is all about flaunting the number of followers, likes, retweets, etc., which leads being an influencer is all about gaining fame. When there is so much competition, ladies and gentlemen, people naturally put their personal agenda as their first priority. But the modern society of influencers have completely changed the concept of influencing. Let's take an example like if influencers post about their body. Now let's take like being a brand ambassador doesn't mean you are gonna flaunt about it to the world. Rather, click photos and then the products you're getting, the lavish lifestyle you have. And when influencers show off their bodies, like youngsters like us get affected by it and think about like Why don't we have a body like that? And for now, in today's society, let's take the Gen Z generation right now. Many of us are an influencer. Like, for example, on Instagram, people who are influencing crave for fame. Crave for fame, in example, they crave for more followers, likes, retweets. Or let's just cut social media right now. Let's take normal influencing, like influencing marketing, like being if you are an ambassador, if you are a brand ambassador, for if let's take it for example, you that now it doesn't state that the products you are getting. Of course, job of being a brand ambassador, you improvise the marketing scheme of the company rather than flaunting it by others. So what, ladies and gentlemen, I would like my rest of my case by saying that being an influencer doesn't mean you have to be a narcissistic and crave for fame rather, and just skip the flaunting part. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. The House is now open for questions. MIS, please go ahead.
Okay, good morning. Earlier in your speech, you mentioned that everybody is hungry for publicity. On what basis do you conclude that statement, and what makes you think that everybody is hungry for publicity?
By everybody, ma'am, may I have the permission to answer?
Please go ahead.
Okay, by everybody, ma'am, I meant like small influencers from small to big at large. Like if you are a normal influencer with, for example, 1K followers, yeah, of course you need to get you want more progress in your influencing influencing profession. So what of course you will be hungry for, not hungry, or you are going to crave for more followers, to get more likes, to get more reach. That's what I meant now. I hope that satisfies your question.
Thank you, Speaker. Tanavi, do we have time for another question?
Yes, there's time.
Ayush, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for giving me the chance. Today, all the archers in the side proposition are just aiming at social media. So I would like to ask you, do you govern this topic only to the social media, or there are many people, especially in the social media, who are actually giving rise to a better technology and better artificial intelligence?
Sorry, sir, I couldn't get your question properly.
I was saying that, do you govern that this topic only satisfies for the social media workers, or social media, or the people who are on social media platforms?
Okay. Sir, I don't refer to the topic to sticks to social media. I even mentioned that how about how were influencers back in the time? Like for example, right now we all are suffering from this global pandemic. So we all know that we cannot have we cannot have physical seminars, physical what you call, to physically raise a brand. So we have right now are webinars through that, and the most highest platform here at peak, which is targeting influencers here, is social media. So through social media only right now you can improvise your brands, improvise your activities. So that's what I meant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. We can move on to the next speaker.
I'd like to call upon Kinjalk, who will be presenting views against the motion.
Am I visible and audible?
Yes, sir, you're visible and audible. Please proceed.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So as we all know the topic for today's debate, I'll be moving towards the points which have been clearly missed by side proposition as well as some speakers of side opposition. Now, firstly, let's understand what do we mean by modern day influencers. The concept has been very narrow-mindedly understood by all the speakers who have spoken till now. We need to understand that when we talk about modern day influencers, we are talking about people who have either a social media presence or a presence on the ground, which through which they are creating motivating, relatable, helpful, or entertaining content for the audience. They are trying to add value to other people's life. Now moving on to the next key term which is there in today's topic, that is the term publicity. Ladies and gentlemen, publicity means promotion and outreach of the work and service that we are providing to the society. So for instance, if I'm a person and I'm adding value to someone's life, and if I'm publicizing that work, that does not mean that I'm a narcissist, which is actually a medical condition, because the technical term, the medical term for it is megalomania, ladies and gentlemen, which was completely denied by so many speakers previously. The technical term for narcissism, the medical term for narcissism is megalomania. It is a mental disorder, ladies and gentlemen. You cannot call someone narcissist just on the basis of what they are posting on social media. There is a proper medical diagnosis which happens, which revolves around it to confirm whether a person is narcissist or not, have narcissist tendencies or not. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us understand that being a fan of publicity and narcissism are two different things. Now, let's understand this with the help of an example. In today's debate, most of the speakers who have spoken till now and all the teams which have participated, everyone has a motive of winning today's debate, of winning best speaker in today's debate. We need to understand that having objectives, having goals, having ambitions does not make a person narcissistic. Now, we need to understand that having to take chance of opportunities which are there in front of you, which are present in front of you, does not make you a narcissist. This is a simple ideology. Now, let us also understand that we live in a country which is status driven. I'll help you all understand this with the help of a story. Now, there was a laboratory, ladies and gentlemen, where there were several containers in which each container contained crabs from different nations. There was a visitor which visited that laboratory. He noticed that each container was closed except the container which contained crabs from India. The person asked the lab expert as to why is it so? Why is the Indian container not closed like the other containers? So the lab expert replied that the Indian container is not closed because of the simple fact that whenever one crab tries to climb up, the other tries to push that crab down. And that is the Indian mentality. That is the mentality of the people right here. And we need to understand that this is not the mentality, or not I'm trying to attack someone over here. This is the mentality of ourselves. I'm also talking about myself, because this is what we've been taught since the very beginning of our inception, since the very inception of our education system, and since the very inception of our society. But that does not make us narcissists for one reason, ladies and gentlemen. That is because narcissist is a medical condition which is very clearly mentioned by so many medical experts, doctors, and global experts throughout the world. Now, we also need to take the example of our elite panel of judges themselves. From Miss Barar, who has won awards, who has established a school of herself. She has been given awards. She has been praised by the people, by the society for the deeds that she has done. Talking about Miss Lobo, she was involved in several school activities. She was looking out for herself. That is why she was involved in so many school activities back then when she was a part of the school. Not because she was narcissistic, but because she was ambitious. And ambitions don't make a person narcissistic, ladies and gentlemen. Then talking about Mr. Sharma, who was awarded by Rotary Club. Now, if he's being awarded by Rotary Club, he's being awarded due to the work that he has done. And now that award does not make him narcissist. That makes him open out to more opportunities, to more conditions which are being presented by the society as a reward. Then talking about Mr. Anand, who happens to be a journalist, happens to be the best person in this scenario, wrapping up my case. So when we talk about a journalist, he was a front page journalist. So whatever content that he was writing was adding value to other people's life. That is why he was awarded the first page. That is why he was given the first page to write the content on. And now he is writing on social media. So if he's publicizing his content, that does not make him a narcissist. It makes him a social media influencer, but it does not make him a narcissist. It makes him an observer and a person who utilizes his opportunities. And with this, I'm not very proud to oppose today's motion, but I'm definitely satisfied in presenting my arguments. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Speaker.